We are privileged to welcome to our celebration acclaimed artist and SAMS alumna Nekisha Durrett. Through public art and large-scale installations, Nekisha seeks to make fully visible that which is often underrepresented or overlooked. From pre-colonial indigenous landscapes of what is now DuPont Circle in Washington, D.C., to the beauty and power of a moment of shared love between two women, to the tragedy of black women murdered by law enforcement. Her works are informed by meticulous research, a deep commitment to engaging communities in challenging conversations through creative practice, and a multidisciplinary practice that spans photography, drawing, sculpture, and a range of other media. In a recent interview with Print Magazine, where she was honored as the Print Artist of the Month, Nekisha best summed up the through line of her work. What a powerful thing that is for someone to be seen, just to be seen as human. Please join me in welcoming Nekisha Durrett.
Dean, faculty, staff, students, family, and friends, good afternoon and congratulations to the University of Michigan Stamp School of Art and Design graduating class of 2021. I'm going to be honest with you. When your dean reached out to me and asked me to write a commencement speech for you all, I really thought that he had emailed the wrong person. You see, I was the youngest in my cohort in the MFA program, and I had applied for graduate school right during my senior year of undergrad at Cooper Union. And I think I probably had just a little too much party left in me. So between scorekeepers and the out bar and even traveling across the border to Windsor, to the gay clubs, it is by some miracle that I actually had a thesis exhibition. Even when I wasn't across the border in Windsor, I lived actually right next door to the Nectarine Ballroom, which I understand is now called Nectos. But I literally lived next door, and there was just like a cinder block wall in between me and the Nectarine. And on Friday nights, the music would really thump loud because it was gay night. And my friends and I would say that the music, the thud of the music sounded like men, 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 men. So this is what I would hear through my walls, even on a night in. So I somehow would always find myself in the middle of a party, even in my apartment. Professor Carol Jacobson, an amazing human being, artist, scholar, feminist. She would invite these incredible women artists to meet with my cohort. And on this one particular day, I'm sure it was a morning after a very long night out in Windsor, she walks into our tiny studio with none other than the Barbara Kruger. And I am completely starstruck, and I'm just remembering the Barbara Kruger that I learned about and studied in undergrad, and I'm just kind of losing it. And so we all sit around this table, and I'm sure I'm just looking kind of wild, and I said something strange, probably. And I don't remember if Barbara Kruger actually wore glasses, if she wears glasses, but in my memory, I just remember her pushing her glasses down to the tip of her nose and her looking over her glasses at me and saying, "How old are you?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm 22." And she goes, "Oh my God, you're a puppy." And sometimes I still feel like that puppy. So I'm not 100% certain that your dean asked the right person, but you know what? I'm going to go with it. And I'm going to try to tell you some things that I wish that someone had said to me when I was about to graduate. You see, the truth is that some small part of you, or maybe even a large part of you, will always be there to tell you that you don't belong, that somehow you were the wrong person that was chosen to have your work in Times Square, that every other artist was busy when you were asked to be the cover artist for a serious design magazine, that you were grossly unqualified for your Rackham Fellowship to the University of Michigan or a full scholarship to the Cooper Union. I want to tell you right now that you belong here, right where you're sitting. You belong here. There are no imposters here. Whew, now that we've gotten that out of the way, the path that has led you here is not a straight one. It will at times feel like you're moving, but that you're not moving forward, but rather you're circling backward. In Ghana, there are a number of ideograms. The one that really sticks with me is the principle of Sankofa. The principle of Sankofa is that you know where you've been so that you know where you're going. And with Sankofa, the image is of a bird who has a long neck and is looking over its back and has something in its beak. So that bird is reaching back and taking something to bring forward. It is the wisdom of learning from the past that ensures a really strong future. Looking back, I can see how my path has not been a straight line. Parents, you are not going to like what I'm about to tell you, especially if your graduate has quarantined with you for part or maybe even all of this year. Those months leading up to graduation, I had grand plans. I was going to move to LA and I was going to be a fashion photographer. And or was it that I was going to go? I was going to go to New York. I was going to go to New York and I was going to be a photojournalist. And I was going to do a little freelance graphic design on the side. And I was also going to have a studio and I was going to make paintings. And I was going to get picked up by a blue chip gallery. And all of this was going to happen in about 6 months. 6 months, a year tops. The problem with all of this was that all of these plans that I had were all in my head. I had not reached out to one friend. I didn't send my portfolio to anyone. I had made not one actionable move toward making any of this happen. So after graduation, after having listened to a commencement speech, kind of like this one, I went with my family and we had a celebratory dinner and we loaded up the family van and drove right down to Maryland, where I lived with my parents in my childhood bedroom for probably about 2.5 years. And I made not one photograph, not one drawing until about 2003. And I graduated in the class, I was in the class of 2000. My family lives about a half an hour outside of Washington, D.C., and a lot of my family members have found secure jobs in the federal government. My family was really supportive of my art career, but there was also a lot of pressure there to find a secure job. And for me at that time, being 23, security was not front of mind. What was front of mind for my parents was me moving out of my childhood bedroom and my mom having a woman cave. Eventually, I did land a job at the Smithsonian Institution. And for those of you that don't know, the Smithsonian actually is a part of the Department of Interior, which would make it, yes, a government entity. So I had a good government job, just like my parents wanted. And somehow I made it work. I was working in a graphic shop and I was making really large scale photo murals and text panels. And I actually started to imagine myself making work again and started thinking about what my work would look like at these large scales, room filling installations. And then I started to think about all of the ways throughout my life I may have felt small or as though my story didn't matter. And when I started to think about my work taking up so much space, it actually wasn't that scary at all. Parents, you will be happy to know that eventually I did move out of my parents' house. My mom did get her woman cave, and in fact, they built a whole new, brand new house. So your future is looking bright. And more importantly, graduates, eventually I did actually find my voice as an artist. Slowly, I was able to amplify that voice. But in order to do that, I had to reach back. I will take the principle of Sankofa a step further with a quote from writer Ocean Vuong. We travel through time in a circular trajectory, our distance increasing from an epicenter, only to return again one circle removed. We are traveling in a spiral. We are creating something new from what is gone. This is out of our control, no matter how it seems. We are always traveling, moving in conversation with the past. Living as an adult in my childhood bedroom, teaching in the school where I was once a student, having my work displayed in a museum where I used to work, writing a commencement speech for my alma mater. In so many ways, my journey, my life has felt like time travel. So must yours. Fill your beak along the way and bring forward a new harvest for each rotation. I draw a lot of inspiration from the natural world, both in my work and just in kind of the way that I move through the world. And there was a recent discovery, like really recent, of a so-called wood wide web. And that is a mouthful to say. On the surface, if you were hiking through the woods, you would assume that all of these trees are kind of taking care of themselves. But beneath the trees, beneath the forest floor, there is this invisible network of fungi and bacteria, an invisible network that connects all of these trees that you see before you in the forest. If one tree is ailing, another tree is able to send nutrients through the soil to this other tree on the other side of the forest to heal that particular tree. And so it makes me ask, how do we take care of each other? A year ago, our lives, as we knew them, changed. We were separated from our friends, separated from our families. We were forced to live inside of our homes because of a deadly virus. One person caught that virus, passed it on to another person. That person passed it on to someone else. That person passed it on to someone else. So if that does not tell you how interconnected we all are, I really don't know what does. If one of us are ailing, we all are ailing. How will we take care of one another? Some of you will move rapidly along your spiral. You may head up a big design firm. You may be a curator in a museum. From your vantage point, you will be able to see clearly around your conference room table. From that vantage point, you must ask yourself, who is not there? Who is not represented? Who doesn't have a voice? And if you're really paying attention to the world, you can ask yourself, historically, who has been the most harmed? And you will invite those people to your table. As you set out to design our world and paint our future, and coronavirus fades from our collective memory, remember to tell this story, the one that we learned when everything slowed down, the one where all the trees in the forest were not really standing alone, but rather they were all holding each other up. The best opportunities I've had along the way have come from real human connection and not from doing either of these two things. Networking. Networking is not a real thing. Building authentic, lasting relationships with people you actually like is real. If you have a crazy idea that you can't pull off on your own, your friends will help you, and maybe even your students will help you, and you would return this kindness. Number 2, sending my portfolio to a museum or a gallery. I don't even know, is that a thing? Do people do that anymore? I don't know. Just make work. Tell your story. Tell it to as many people as that will listen. Those human beings that you met while not networking will invite you to be in a show that they curated, or ask you to illustrate a book that they've written, or design the packaging for their energy drink. And you, in turn, would do the same. Unlike the experience of toiling over this speech, for whatever reason, I did not think that I needed to write down my thesis for my graduate exhibition. And it showed. It was a rambling mess. So when I visualize that moment, I can almost feel myself on this spiral, brushing up against the past. And I can clearly see myself sitting here and see myself sitting there in the lecture hall, delivering my thesis. And I just remember saying a lot about storytelling. Although looking at my thesis today, there's nothing there that is really about storytelling. And so perhaps in 2000, when I was delivering my thesis, I was actually seeing me, the puppy, and me, the 45-year-old woman, telling you to tell your stories. The best ones, the best stories, have been sidelined, told in passing, or altogether untold. Tell your stories. Make space for others to tell their story. Even if you never see anyone from your cohort again, you take them with you. I don't know where your path is going, and neither do you, but I would like for you to do something for me. I know that all of you probably have a group chat or some way of keeping in touch with everyone in your cohort. I would like for you to pull out your phone right now, and I would like for you to send this message to everyone in your cohort. I will get there, and when I get there, you will be with me.